This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
Next on the 5 o'clock report.
I hear one voice. They want a regime change. They want a freedom.
We're concerned about what's happening as a result of the president's rhetoric.
Kids are going to AI when they're lonely, when they don't know who to talk to.
Now, let's go to the newsroom.
Arctic air about to pay a chilling call. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Mark Webster. Well, this weekend's weather shouldn't be too bad, but next week's looking downright Arctic. Nearly everyone's going to see deep freeze temps from Sunday night right into Wednesday. Strong winds will make that worse and will also fire up the lake effect snow machine.
One shot of colder air comes in on Sunday, followed by the mother load Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week. High temperatures on Tuesday, only in the single digits to low to mid-teens.
WGRZ's Patrick Hammer in Buffalo. Winter storm watches and winter weather advisories posted for Sunday night to Wednesday for parts of northwestern PA and the usual lake snow zones off Erie and Ontario. We'll check in with Kevin Williams for his updated forecast during this newscast. The cooling off of President Trump's rhetoric toward the oppressive Iranian government might just be a matter of logistics. A retreat from threats of military intervention could be just buying time for the USS Lincoln carrier group to make it to the region. Estimates range from a few thousand to 20,000 or more Iranians killed by the mullahs trying to stay in power. Iranian-born activist Dr. Amir Hamadi tells CBN the uprising sprang from the hearts of the Iranian people.
From Tehran to Tabriz to Mashhad, I hear one voice. And they want a regime change. They want a freedom. They want a normal life.
U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff says any negotiated deal with Iran would have to address nuclear enrichment, missile stockpiles, and Iran's support for proxies against U.S. interests. Call it a peace offering. During a White House meeting yesterday, Venezuela's opposition leader Maria Corina Machado gave President Trump a pretty unusual gift.
I presented the President of the United States the medal of the Nobel Peace Prize.
Machado hoping to win over Trump, saying her country will be the best ally the U.S. has down there. Today, at a forum, she expressed confidence her country will soon transition into a stable democracy. A U.S. Senate delegation meeting with Danish officials today about President Trump's insistence that the U.S. get control of Greenland for strategic purposes. New Hampshire Democrat Jean Shaheen.
We're concerned about what's happening as a result of the president's rhetoric. We want to say very directly to you in Denmark, to you in Greenland, we think this relationship is really important, and that's why we're here.
Trump is threatening tariffs against countries that side with Denmark and Greenland over that dispute. Well, despite ongoing and sometimes violent protests in Minnesota, President Trump says he doesn't have any immediate plans to invoke the Insurrection Act there. Before leaving the White House for Florida today, Trump said there's no reason to use it now, but added that if he needed it, it's available to him. That security camera sound from thieves breaking into a store where, at gunpoint, they heisted $100,000 worth of Pokemon cards, says the store owner.
Stole from the cash register and all of that, pointed their guns at a couple more people, wouldn't let anybody leave, and they got out in a couple of minutes.
No one was injured. The owner says a rise in the value of those Pokemon cards has made his place a repeat target for thieves, but nothing this brazen before. Another congressional hearing yesterday on the impact of AI, especially negative impact on kids' health, as lawmakers heard from doctors who have some big concerns.
Kids are going to AI when they're lonely, when they don't know who to talk to. They're worried about being judged.
As a parent and as a researcher, I'm even more concerned about the AI companion apps than I am about social media. It is terrifying to think that our kids are having their first relationships with these sycophantic chatbots. How is that going to translate to real human relationships?
The doctors say there's a worrisome new mental health disorder called AI psychosis, describing serious delusions from young people misusing the technology. From Australia comes word that social media companies there have blocked access to nearly 5 million accounts believed to belong to children. Last month, the land down under banned social media for those under 16.
Young people, instead of being on their devices during these school holidays, have been cycling around facilities, have been reading books, have been engaging with their friends and family.
Aussie Prime Minister Anthony Albanese staying online, some new fans for some decidedly old tech.
Why would anyone pay as much as $1,500 for a 16-year-old iPhone? That's Gen Z. They've suddenly made the iPhone 4 trendy again, and now searches for the old clunker are up 1,000% on eBay. And even though Apple warns those phones aren't supported anymore and could be hacked by a toddler, users claim they like that the pictures look vintage.
CBS's Chris McVreedy. I'll have to check the junk drawer, see if I have an old iPhone kicking around. Still to come on the 5 o'clock report, a plea deal in the Marcy correction case, fatalities from yesterday's slick road conditions, and highlights from today's Capital Connection.
I'm Kevin Williams, and here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. For tonight, turning out cloudy, or mostly cloudy, a touch of snow or flurries, and not as cold as last night. Low temperatures most areas in the 20s. Meanwhile, cloudy with a bit of snow and flurries, adjusting to an inch or two, high temps in the 30s. On Sunday, brisk, colder, variable clouds, flurries, and developing lake snow. High temperatures on Sunday in the 20s.
All right, thank you very much, Kevin Williams. Now checking the stories making news where you live across New York and Pennsylvania. A plea deal this afternoon in the case of former Marcy Corrections Officer Michael Fisher. He was on trial in connection with the fatal guard beating of inmate Robert Brooks. With the jury already deliberating the manslaughter charges against him, a deal was struck that saw Fisher enter a guilty plea to second-degree reckless endangerment. By accepting that deal, Fisher faces 6 months behind bars. A day after a crash that sent multiple people to the hospital and shut down the highway for hours, another serious crash today on I-81 in the Syracuse area. This one happened at the I-481 interchange, closed down the northbound lanes for a time, but they've since reopened. Yesterday's 37-vehicle pileup was one of many weather-related wrecks around the area. Tyler Hardy is chief of the Otisco Fire Department.
There were people, walking wounded around the highway. There were some wounded that the medical personnel attended to. It was a little bit chaotic at first.
At least 2 of the slew of accidents across New York and Pennsylvania yesterday was fatal. Pennsylvania State Police say a 22-year-old Slippery Rock University student died in a multi-vehicle crash on I-79 in Mercer County Thursday afternoon. That large crash shut down the highway for hours in both directions between the I-80 interchange and exit 130. Another crash on I-380 near Pocono last night claimed the life of one person. In that case, a vehicle broke down, was stopped on the road, then it was struck by 3 other vehicles. The Pennsylvania General Assembly has passed a new law to strengthen accountability for impaired driving. It mandates stiffer fines and penalties for repeat DUI offenders. Bradford County DA Richard Wilson.
Our legislators recognize the seriousness of driving under the influence offenses, of driving in an impaired state.
Wilson says the law gives prosecutors clear guidance, supports victims, and helps keep PA roads safer. 2 Rochester, New York students treated at the scene after being cut by flying glass when someone threw a large object at their school bus around noon today, shattering a window. Happened on the city's north side. A 14 and 15-year-old student got first aid from a responding ambulance crew. The person who threw the object fled. Why they threw something at that school bus is still a mystery. A huge fire in downtown Buffalo last night. That 4-alarm blaze gutted the vacant 4-story former St. Anne's Roman Catholic Church and School on the city's east side. An emergency demolition today to complete what that huge fire started. No injuries reported. The cause of that blaze under investigation. Ground broken this morning in Clay, New York for Micron's new mega campus. The project represents the largest private investment in New York State history, costing upwards of $100 billion over 20 years.
I see this as the new industrial revolution.
That's Clay Town Supervisor Damian Ulatowski.
It means more schools. It means more houses. It means more opportunities of every kind. And there'll be people knocking on the door to say, I want to fill that spot. That's what excites me.
The semiconductor plant is expected to create 50,000 jobs and will roll out its first computer chips by the end of the decade. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick among those on hand for today's groundbreaking ceremony. All right, up next, highlights from today's Capital Connection. Our Bob Price gets together with Jason McGuire from New York Families and Michael Gear with the Pennsylvania Family Institute to explore the big issues right now in Albany and Harrisburg.
Jason, want to begin with the governor's State of the State speech back on Tuesday. Anybody who thinks this wasn't a political speech, all they had to do was listen for about 5 minutes. That's all the time it took her to mention Donald Trump. Seems like he is very much on her radar screen this election year. Is that that an effective strategy for her?
You know, in New York, the popularity of Donald Trump is not very high, and so many Democrats, including Governor Kathy Hochul, are planning on running against Donald Trump and what is happening at the federal level, and that may prove some benefit for her. It demonstrates how in an election year, though, people do tend to run towards the things that are popular. We saw a lot of that in the governor's State of the State address, which is kind of ironic because that's how President Donald Trump was elected in the first place, with populist messaging.
Yeah, you could tell this suburban soccer mom. It's cliche, but that was who she was talking to in that speech. We'll jump back into some of those issues in a bit, but Michael, wow, what a week for you. Inside the Supreme Court for oral arguments in those two cases, Idaho and West Virginia, the effort to save girls' sports for girls. Based on what your legal team heard in court this week, are you confident that the justices will uphold these trans bans in West Virginia and Idaho?
Yeah, two of our attorneys were in the courtroom for that hearing. We did file a friend of the court brief in that case. The briefing that I received from them afterwards, as they listened to the sort of legal language that went by, as well as some of the craziness that went by, indicates that they think we'll get a majority and that the girls' sports will be protected both in those states, and that it will allow states to have these prohibitions against males who identify as females playing on those girls' sports teams. So that's a real plus.
We'll see how the court rules, because a lot of states have similar laws that would be affected by this. Jason, let's go back to New York. The governor, it was kind of interesting in the room there on Tuesday, in the egg, as they call it, a man who wasn't there, Lieutenant Governor Antonio Delgado. I don't remember, maybe it's never happened, where a lieutenant governor was running against a governor in a primary in New York. It might be a first. Correct me if I'm wrong there. How much does he complicate the governor's reelection efforts this year?
Well, you know, looking at what's going to happen this year, it means the governor is going to have to go through a primary, and that is something that I don't think she wanted to do. Part of the problems with primaries is it tends to push parties to the extremes of their party. And so if you're the Democrat, you're now moving further and further to the left to try to win the primary, which can complicate things in the general election. So in this case, you have the governor who's walking a tightrope. She has Mayor Mamdani down in New York City. She has her own lieutenant governor who's pushing her to the left, and yet she's trying to run towards the middle and a more centrist messaging so she can win the independent voter. It could complicate things significantly for her later this year.
Michael, the Sanctity of Human Life Sunday is fast approaching. It's actually this weekend, this Sunday, Sanctity of Human Life Sunday. We've got the big National March for Life coming up in Washington, which you feature so prominently. I think you've told me before, no state in the country sends more marchers to D.C. than Pennsylvania. And there's more good news. There were about 2,400 fewer abortions in Pennsylvania in 2024 compared to the year earlier. Is this a trend that you think will continue? And if so, what do you think is driving this decline in the overall abortion rate?
Well, and it's even a question about how definitive the decline is. The Pennsylvania Department of Health collects these numbers. They don't provide any specific insights on why the numbers went down, or in some years why they go up. What most likely is the cause of the drop in numbers here in Pennsylvania may not be an actual drop, but the increase in the number of telehealth chemical abortions through the abortion pill, which oftentimes are not reported to the state at all.
Highlights from today's Capital Connection. Jason McGuire from New York Families and Michael Gear with the Pennsylvania Family Institute speaking with our Bob Price. They tackled even more topics than that. To hear the entire program, along with all of our Family Life original news features, they're all yours at Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and FamilyLife.org. This is the 5 o'clock report on Family Life.
Counterfeit ideas have been tripping up God's people since the garden. Hi, I'm Rob West with a Faith and Finance Minute. In Genesis 3, the enemy didn't deny God's word. He distorted it. Did God really say? That strategy hasn't changed. Today, we still hear sayings that sound biblical but aren't actually in the Bible. And when it comes to money, those half-truths can quietly shape how we think about stewardship. Take money as the root of all evil. Scripture actually says the love of money is the problem. Or God helps those who help themselves, a phrase found nowhere in Scripture. Counterfeits like these pull us towards self-reliance instead of trust. The only way to recognize the false is to know the real thing. Anchor your financial life in what God actually says. Get biblical answers to your financial questions in the Faith-Fi community. Download Faith-Fi, Faith and Finance in your app store or visit faithfi.com.
Thank you, Rob. Still to come on the 5 o'clock report. Bad emus, what you gonna do when they come for you? An unusual police pursuit after weather with Kevin.
I'm Kevin Williams, and here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. Well, we're heading into the weekend. Several factors are in play. First of all, we have a departing area of Arctic cold. We have a Canadian clipper system that will bring a bit of snow to some areas tonight and tomorrow. Even a rise on the East Coast for a storm. Right now, it looks like a near miss, affecting coastal communities of the Mid-Atlantic and New England, but something we'll keep our eyes on as well. There's lots of Arctic cold teeing up for next week. The call for tonight turning out cloudy, or mostly cloudy, a touch of snow or flurries, and not as cold as last night. Low temperatures most areas in the 20s. But while cloudy with a bit of snow and flurries, a dusting to an inch or two, high temps in the 30s. On Sunday, brisk, colder, variable clouds, flurries, and developing lake snow. High temperatures on Sunday in the 20s.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Finally at 5, police never know what the next call might bring, especially, it seems, in Florida.
Interesting. I'm in pursuit of an emu.
Corporal Thomas Kiesler has seen a lot in 25 years with the St. Johns County, Florida Sheriff's Department, but wrangling a loose 6-foot-tall emu was a first, and not his easiest apprehension either.
Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come on. Come here. Come on. Oh, this way. This way. Some big old talons.
Well, eventually, he caught and handcuffed, or leg cuffed, the suspect.
Oh, look who's got you now. Don't move. I got one on. Don't look at me that way. Hey, don't bite me. Don't even think about it. Don't do it. Are you done resisting? I don't want to have to charge you. Don't talk back to me. Secured. Look at that. I have a full set of cuffs on this emu.
All in a day's work for Florida law enforcement. And that's the world we live in for Friday, January 16th, 2026. Thanks again for joining us. Have a blessed weekend. I'm Mark Webster, Family Life News.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.